All right, now let's talk about the top story, which is this lovely lady that was sentenced to 2 years in the UK for, and I kid you not, taking money away from vulnerable men on dating apps. Now, you're probably asking, wait a second, if it's illegal and you can go to jail for taking money and tricking men on dating apps as a woman, wouldn't the majority of modern women be in jail? Yes. But then again, then who would be cheating on their husbands at the Coldplay concert? See, there's always a balance in life. But let's dive into the story because it is absolutely delicious. So, this lady, and her name is, and I kid you not, this is Miss Gray. She's 37 years old, and all of her 50 shades are pretty shady because she has employed one of the oldest tricks in the book, at least here in the book in Southeast Asia, where I live. And again, a lot of this is, of course, on men. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But so, by the way, BBC had to publish another story. Let me show you that this is the follow-up story a few days later. And they interviewed a guy one of the guys who she took the money from. And I think she got more than 11,000 British pounds out of this dudes. And the story has actually a few interesting moments because let me see this highlighted text. It says, "I'm such an idiot. I'm sorry. I feel really bad now." Now, when I saw that quote, I thought it came from one of the guys, but actually it's a quote from her. Now, I really do think it's the guys who should feel bad. And like I said, we're going to talk about them in just a second because, there's got to be some responsibility, right, on men as well, because, these are not a very complicated, mental wrestling that she pulled off on this man. And I'm sure there were more than three. I'm sure she started with a bunch, but this is what happened. She posted a profile on a dating app. Now, obviously, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Obviously, this was not her profile picture. This is her coming out of the courthouse for the sentencing, and she picked a picture of some pretty girl, and a bunch of dudes swiped right on that, and she started talking to them, which is no perfectly normal. But as she was talking to these guys, some of them started to invite her out, and she would agree to these dates, but then last second she would cancel because something happened, and these guys said, okay, we'll wait a little bit longer. And as they sort of this whole thing progressed, the guys started to kind of emotionally attach themselves because she's pretty good apparently at being nice to these men, which again is that's a skill nowadays. You have to admit. But this is the lesson where a lot of men need to learn. If you're meeting a girl, I don't care if you met her on dating app or just got a phone number at the coffee shop. If a girl is not available to meet you for a cup of coffee, lunch date, I don't care, but just a cup of coffee within 72 hours, there are many of murders who have been solved in less than that. You need to move on. She's just not that interested in you in particular or in dating in general. There are many other priorities, but a girl who sees a man who could be a potential boyfriend or maybe even husband and goes like, yeah, I'm too busy, I'm washing my hair. You need to move on. Now, these guys didn't, and they obviously paid the price in more ways than one. And at the very least, the price that you're going to pay is your wasted time. Now, after that, as their kind of emotional relationship progressed, she started asking for money, 30 pounds here, 30 pounds there for gas and so forth and so forth. And these guys started giving it to her. Now, obviously, there's probably 20 or 30 of them at that point left who were willing to put up with that crap. And then most of them probably left as soon as she asked for money. But three didn't. And this is another lesson that all men need to learn. Never, ever, ever, ever give money to a woman as far as just handing cash. Or, I mean, unless you're already in a committed relationship, you're living together as a family, it's a whole different story. But your finances should be merged at that time. But if you are a dude who's handing over money, this is not the money for the drinks or the dinners or experiences that you're having together where you're paying to the service provider. If you're paying directly to a woman, well, she is then a service provider, and there is a word for that, and it kind of escapes me, but it rhymes with a prostitute. I'm sure it'll come back to me. So this is where these guys have gone horribly, horribly wrong. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know that I go over a lot of these schemes that happen here in Southeast Asia with guys who either come here or actually stay there in Europe and America and end up losing a lot of money, more than these guys. These guys lost only several thousand American dollars or so. Now, that's how she did it. Now, I am surprised that she's got caught and she even went to jail. Now, I do have to say that this 2-year sentence was a suspended sentence. And if you're not familiar with the UK law, it's kind of like probation in America, where you don't actually go to jail. It just goes on your record and you can't commit any more crime or whatever. You have to do community service, which I don't know what that would be. I don't know, paying for your own dinners for a while. That would be interesting to know what the conditions are. And I would be interested to know why her. I mean, you can easily argue that the majority of women, Western women on dating apps, and even here in the Southeast Asia, are women who are trying to take money from men one way or another. And it's not a scam. Now, this is where you're probably going to be surprised, because I don't agree that this is scam. You know what I mean? She asked money for money. She lied about it. People lie all the time, especially women lie all the time too on dating apps. And the guys just voluntarily gave it to him. She did not sign any contracts. She just basically said, listen, dude, you want to continue talking to me? I just need a little bit more money. Of course, then it got into, like, I think her grandma was sick or whatever. Here in Thailand, we call it the buffalo, whatever. And these guys continued giving and giving more money without ever meeting this girl. So the responsibility, and you guys probably know this is the theme of my channel, is that as disgusting of a behavior of the modern women is nowadays, the responsibility lies on men who allow that behavior. What you permit, you promote. If you want to ditch modern women and move abroad for more traditional relationships, go to themillionmanproject.com, take my most comprehensive course, and change your life.